Y'all ain't gonna believe this. I came across a Phoenix Police Department critical incident briefing where they actually did a thorough investigation. They conducted themselves as professionally as possible under the circumstances. Nobody died. They got the correct person and they did it legally and constitutionally. Let's talk about it. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Southern Draw Law. My name is James White, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former police officer. Now, I get a lot of heat in the comments from the bootlickers, and this is what they say to me. You're biased, you're against the police, all that stuff. That's not true, but I understand why it looks that way. And this is the reason. It's very hard to find a situation where everything is done correctly that gives you an opportunity as an attorney to talk about the nuanced distinctions in constitutional law. And that's not an excuse. I would love to do good cop content because it just feels better. It's not negative. But the truth of the matter is that there are more opportunities to talk about nuanced distinctions in the law with negative interactions than there are positives. And so while I don't believe that I'm biased, I do understand how people could look at my content and think, well, all this guy does is bash police officers. So this is an opportunity, and I think it's a good one to talk about what a good police investigation looks like and how it's actually supposed to work. So if you're tempted because you don't want to see good police content to turn the video off, I'd just ask you to, hey, you're not going to get very many opportunities to see what a real investigation looks like, where the police conducted themselves fairly professionally and did things pretty close to the right way and were honest in their critical incident briefing. So let's check it out, and then we'll walk our way through it and talk about it.
Hello, I'm Sergeant Lorraine Fernandez with the Phoenix Police Department's Public Affairs Bureau.
Okay, just first of all, my wife don't watch my channel, so Lorraine Fernandez? Hey, girl, hey. Where you been? Okay, sorry. Back to it.
The information, audio, video, and pictures you're about to see are intended to provide details as we currently understand them of a critical incident that occurred on June 7, 2025, in the area of 43rd Avenue and McDowell Road. This video may contain strong language as well as graphic images, which could be disturbing to some people. Viewer discretion is advised. This incident began in the area of 48th Avenue and McDowell Road when Phoenix police officers responded to an armed robbery at a hotel. The caller told the 911 operator she watched a man on video steal her purse from the hotel laundry room. When she confronted him, he pulled out a gun and pointed it at her. The caller described the man as a Hispanic male in his 20s, wearing black clothing and a black hat with yellow writing. The caller said he was last seen running towards 43rd Avenue. The following audio clip is from the 911 call.
Phoenix 911, where's your emergency?
Yes, ma'am. I'm at the one right now. I have video of a young man stealing my purse out of our laundry room. I'm a housekeeper, and when I asked him about it, he pulled out a gun and took off running.
What's your
Like he
address?
pointed at me.
What's your address? Which way did this guy go? I got officer
That was 43rd, right? They were headed towards 43rd. It was three of them. The dude
Okay,
has on a black.
Hold on 1 second. I just want to talk about right now the guy with the gun.
Okay.
He went towards 43rd Avenue.
Yes, ma'am.
Vehicle.
On foot.
And you said that he has a black what?
He has a black hat with like yellow writing on it, a black t-shirt, black pants, shorts, and black shoes.
So yellow hat or black hat with yellow writing and then all black?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am. And he's got like a.
Hold on
He's
1 second.
Mexican.
Hold on. Okay,
Hispanic.
perfect. Hispanic male, how old is he? 20s, 30s, 40s? How old is he? 20s, 30s, 40s?
He's probably in his early 20s.
Is he thin, heavy, average weight?
Then he's thin.
What kind of gun was it? Was it like a hand-sized gun or an
Yes,
arm-sized
ma'am.
gun? Handgun?
It was a hand-sized gun. Yes, ma'am. It was probably like a little 9 or something.
The following is surveillance footage from the hotel laundry room showing the man taking the woman's purse. The following is surveillance footage showing the woman confronting the man. Officers were also given a photo taken by a bystander, which shows the man displaying his gun to the woman. Officers arrived and contacted the victim. She showed them the surveillance video of the man stealing her purse. The officer circulated a photo of the suspect to other officers with a description of him.
Okay, so I have two primary quibbles with this critical incident briefing. So it is a good investigation, and I'll go through that. I'll work my way through it. But there are a couple things. First of all, imagine being the person who just got your stuff stolen, and then when you confronted the guy, he pointed a gun at you, and calling the Phoenix Police Department for help and being treated and talked to the way this asshole dispatcher treated this lady. Such a terrible attitude. If I could just get dispatchers to understand, if you stop acting like you are a detective and you just let people give you the information, they will probably answer your questions. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth so you can listen twice as much as you talk. Your job is to gather information and report it to the appropriate parties. If you'll just shut up, people will tell you what is going on. I understand that you have to abide by some sort of a script, and I understand that you have to ask questions, but you should actually listen to what they're saying before you start asking questions. So that's my first thing. The dispatcher is horrible. I hate dispatchers. They're such jerks. They're assholes by default. But my second quibble and my primary quibble with this video is the fact that the Phoenix police knows that this is not a robbery. And I'll explain to you why. This is another reason why this is a great video to talk about, because it gives us an opportunity to talk about the difference between an actual robbery and a larceny followed by an assault, because that's what happened here. So first of all, let's walk through the elements of robbery in Arizona so that I can explain to you why this is not a robbery. And you may already know that. So if you do know that, I'm not trying to pretend like you don't know. I'm just, for those of you who don't understand the difference, a lot of people think that anytime your stuff is stolen, that's a robbery, and that's not actually how it works. So let's look at the law in Arizona on robbery and look at the elements. So under ARS 13-1902, robbery, a person commits robbery if in the course of taking any property of another from his person or immediate presence and against his will, such person threatens or uses force against any person with intent either to coerce surrender of property or to prevent resistance to such person taking or retaining the property. If you look at the surveillance video, the guy goes into the room and takes the purse once he realizes that nobody's around. He's got the purse, the taking is completed. And so that's why this is not a robbery, in my opinion. Now, you might say that, when she confronts him, he's trying to retain the property. That I disagree with that legally, but I can understand where you might come to that conclusion. This is a larceny. That is, unless there's a $1,000 value to this purse or whatever the threshold is, it's very likely a misdemeanor larceny followed by an aggravated assault. Because again, it's the immediate presence of the person. Taking of any property is the first element from the person or the immediate presence. There's nobody around. And that's the whole reason that this is like a crime of opportunity. He takes the purse from an empty room when nobody's around. So the assault that happens is after that. He's not taking the property from the person or from their immediate presence. He already has the property. The taking is complete. The theft is complete. If anything, the fact that he pulled a gun on her when she confronted him just strengthens the intent to permanently deprive, which would match the elements of larceny. So let's look at that. Sorry, I said larceny. Some states call it larceny. Some states call it theft. In Arizona, it's theft. So ARS 13-1802 is theft. A person commits theft if, without lawful authority, the person knowingly controls property of another with the intent to deprive them of it. Okay, so the intent to deprive is obvious. If I've come and talked to you about you taking my stuff and you pull a gun on me, you have no intention of giving it back to me, right? So that means that the intent to deprive is satisfied by the assault. So what this actually is, legally speaking, is a theft, not a robbery. And here's why that matters. If this was an armed robbery where he actually used a gun to grab the purse, or in the process of grabbing the purse, if the lady was somewhere close around, he pulled the gun and the taking hadn't been completed yet, that's different. Then you're looking at a range of 7 to 21 years for robbery, right? But if it's aggravated assault, that follows a misdemeanor theft, then you're looking at 5 to 15 years because it's a lower class of felony. So that's why it matters whether or not it's a robbery or a theft followed by an aggravated assault. And that's my main quibble with this analysis. And the only reason I believe that they're doing it is because of what is going to happen next to the guy. And, you know, it's Phoenix, and their PR sucks because primarily they've done a real shitty job of being fair in their policing practices, and so they're getting appropriate heat from the public, so they need all the good PR they can get. So let's watch the rest of this interaction and we'll come back and talk about it.
Approximately 1 hour later, officers saw a man matching the suspect's description standing near a gas station at 43rd Avenue and McDowell Road. The man was seen going into the store carrying the stolen purse. The following is surveillance footage from the store showing a man matching the suspect's description entering the business with the stolen purse.
Okay, so you do see that the guy's wearing all black. He's got a hat that's got black and yellow writing or black and white writing or whatever, and he has the actual purse. So there's your reasonable articulable suspicion. You know a crime was committed. You've got a description of the person who committed it. You've got a description of the property that's taken, and you have an eyewitness who can verify that this is the person that did it, right? So that is what reasonable articulable suspicion looks like. And this is why a Terry detention matters. Because in order for the police to develop probable cause, they must start at reasonable articulable suspicion that a crime has been committed, or that a crime is in the process of being committed or is about to be committed, right? So we know that standard from Terry. So when these guys get a call that, hey, this guy that took this purse has come into this gas station, it's a person matching the description, he has the exact purse, or at least a description of a purse that looks like the one that's reported stolen, the police can go then do a brief investigatory detention of this person in order to determine whether all of these things match up. And so when they go approach this guy, he doesn't obviously want to be detained, and so this unfolds into a deadly force situation. But the point is, this is a solid investigative lead that would be an appropriate detention under Terry in order to build the case from reasonable suspicion up to probable cause in order to make an arrest.
As the man left the store, a 2-man patrol unit activated their lights and siren in an attempt to stop the man. The man took off running through the parking lot of the gas station and onto McDowell Road.
This is an important distinction because you can't just chase somebody simply because they run. But when you have all of these investigative steps in place and you have this matching description, you now know who the person is, why you're talking to them, what the nature of the crime was, under the totality of the circumstances test, everything is here in order for them to chase this person when he takes off running.
As the patrol vehicle got close to the man, officers saw the man reach into his shorts and partially reveal a handgun. In response, the officer driving struck the man with the patrol vehicle. After the collision, officers got out of the patrol vehicle and saw the man's ankle partially pinned under the front passenger side tire. Officers moved the patrol vehicle to free the man's ankle, while another officer removed the gun from the man's shorts. Here is the body-worn camera footage from the officer driving the patrol vehicle.
Show me your hands! Show me your hands! Stick your hands out!
Here's the body-worn camera footage from the officer in the passenger seat.
Come on, stare. Get on. Roll him over. Where's it at? Where's it at? Okay.
Here's the body-worn camera footage from the officer who removed the gun from the man. The fire department responded and took the man to the hospital for a non-life-threatening injury to his ankle. The man will be booked into jail after he is discharged from the hospital. No one else was injured during this incident. The gun removed from the suspect matched the one seen in the surveillance footage.
Okay, so why was this case one where deadly force would be authorized? Well, we know that under the Graham versus Connor objective reasonableness test, we look at the totality of the circumstances. And even though Barnes v. Felix was decided at the end of May, and this is in June, Arizona had already been using the totality of the circumstances test under Graham versus Connor. So what Graham requires in order for deadly force to be objectively reasonable, well, for one, the suspect poses an immediate threat. Second, they are fleeing or actively resisting. And then third, the response to that is objectively reasonable under the circumstances. Well, here's what you have. You have a person who's reported that her purse was stolen, and then when she confronted the man she saw on video stealing it, he pointed a gun at her, or he threatened her with a gun or flashed a gun, whatever. Now, you might not be able to attach immediacy to the threat that he made against the woman, but he's fleeing, which means he's actively resisting being detained. And then the officers are going to say that he flashed a gun at them, and that's the reason that they struck him with the vehicle. Okay, so regardless of whether you believe that, the court will believe it because the gun was later removed from the shorts exactly where they said he flashed it from. And it turns out this person is the exact person who was the subject of the investigation anyway. But again, you're not operating on a hunch here. You've got all these pieces of the puzzle that you put together in order to get here. And so you got immediate threat because he flashed the gun at the police officers, according to their statement, when they approached him. Active resistance because he fled when they tried to detain him. And the response was objectively reasonable. They didn't jump out of the car and start beating the ass off the guy, which, is surprising. It's Phoenix. But they basically went straight. They moved the gun. They cuffed the guy. They didn't take extraordinary measures to do anything to rough him up. So their response was objectively reasonable under the circumstances. And you might be thinking, well, James, why would they hit him with a car? When you have authorization for deadly force, it doesn't matter what you use. You might be outside of policy. For instance, lateral vascular neck restraints or a rear naked choke, for instance, might be outlawed by policy. But in a situation where deadly force is authorized, it's completely fine to use a choke on someone if you have deadly force authorization under that circumstances, even though it might be outside of your department's training and policy. So running over somebody with a car or striking someone with a car faster than they can pull a gun on you is always going to be ratified by the law. Nobody's going to say anything to them. Now, they might get a ding on the department policy because I've seen situations where guys were justified in their actions, but they still got written up because they didn't turn their body cam on or didn't, call out the pursuit in a certain way or whatever the situation was. So you might have policy violations that are later dealt with. But as far as the legality of using deadly force in this situation, this is one of those cases where this is going to be ratified every single time if the circumstances are these. In closing, like I mentioned in the beginning, it is hard sometimes to find a way to highlight what needs to be highlighted in the nuanced breakdown of a police interaction and show a positive encounter. In addition to that, you can look back at my content from about a year ago and you can see that I was doing a Good Cop of the Week segment. The problem was about 3 times more people watched my interactions where the cops were being bad than watched my interactions where the cops were being good. And if you're trying to grow a YouTube audience, you have to give the audience what they want to see. And so the audience was telling me they didn't want to see good cop interactions. And so, it's rare that you have an opportunity to do that, where you can show a good interaction that looks like good police work, that looks like the way things are supposed to be done in a constitutionally intentional way. And nobody died, and there's no situation where you have to really work your way through and say, well, oh man, was this really worth it and all that? This was a situation where I think everything these guys did was reasonable. The only quibble that I have is the fact that it was still presented as a robbery, even though the person didn't actually report it as a robbery. That was a label that the police attached to it, and they should know this is not a robbery. I guarantee you this guy was not charged with robbery, and if he was, it will be dismissed, and it will be amended to the charges that I talked about, which would be a theft followed by an aggravated assault. Now, I hope that this is a sign of things to come for the Phoenix Police Department. They do have a new interim chief. Hopefully he's listening to the critical feedback from the public. And, that's what this is about. It sort of hurts me to say it, but I think they did a good job. I think they did a good job with this situation. You don't have officers treating people poorly. You don't have people getting beat up. You don't have people getting cussed out. You don't have thugs with badges in this situation. You just have police officers doing their job, making the scene safe, and doing what they're supposed to do within the confines of the law. I don't know what more you can ask for. You don't have to like the police in order to understand, hey, look, sometimes their presence and their job is necessary. This is one of those times. So, again, I hate this about the fact that my content has kind of gotten pigeonholed into this negative space, because I would much rather be positive. I would much rather highlight positive police interactions. But you do 6 to 8 hours of work to produce a video. I have to put out the videos that my audience wants to see. I don't want to put the same amount of effort into an educational video that gets a third of the views simply because, my goal is to somehow lick the boots of the cops. No, my job is to try to pack as much educational content I can into a video that people will watch. And these are the videos that people will watch. But I thought it would be a good opportunity just to sort of flip the script a little bit, show that I am capable of complimenting the police when they do things the right way. And hopefully you will forgive me for that, even if you didn't want to see a positive police interaction. But anyway, that's all for this one. I just wanted to bring this to your all's attention. I thought it was a good way to talk about the distinction between force and that which is necessary in order to meet the elements of a robbery, and to talk about how you might be able to use deadly force that's outside of your ordinary tools and still be justified within the law, and just a different way to show what reasonable articulable suspicion and probable cause building looks like in an adequate and competent police investigation. So hopefully you got something from it. I'll probably write a companion blog over on Substack to talk about whatever comes up in the comments. I'd like to invite you over there to check it out. It's absolutely free to join. You can join on a paid tier if you want to, but that's only for people who want to support the channel monetarily. If you don't want to come to Substack, you don't want to follow me to another platform, but you do want to support monetarily, I'll leave my Venmo and PayPal links both here on the screen as well as in the description. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment on the video. Check out some of the other videos on the channel and leave a comment on there as well. Until I see you again, take care. Always film your interactions with the police and keep your evidence to yourself.